بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome dear students. This is Miss Layla Al-Jihani. Inshallah today we will continue our unit 1 from our new book inshallah for this semester. Today inshallah we will cover lesson 11, the writing, okay? We will cover the writing together inshallah. So before we start, let's recall what we covered in our previous lesson. In our previous lesson we talked about, do you remember? This is the title we covered in our reading. Yes, we talked about twins, yes? And how even if they are apart, they have the same facial appearance, and they have the same, some of them, they have the same personality, okay? From the stories we've read in our previous lesson, okay? We answered questions related to the reading, okay? And also, we did the project together. I asked you to do and advertise a garage sale, okay? You worked in a group, and I showed you a sample. This is the sample of the garage sale, okay? And I showed you the process, how you present it to your class. If you did, this was your homework also. If you did it, please share it with your friends and then vote which one you think is the best with the appearance and with the pictures. I'm sure you're gonna do much better than this one, okay? Inshallah, in our lesson today, by the end of it, you will be able to write about a strange coincidence or a chance meeting, okay? And also you will be able to differentiate between past tenses. You will use the past tenses in cohesive statements, okay? You will write sentences related to the past tenses, okay? Before we start, I gave you the homework, the project, also page 93. Page 93, you have these questions, okay? You have to answer it based on the reading. I'm sure you did it, based on the reading. So read these, read the paragraph and read the questions and try to compare your answers with your friend, and let's see it together. For number 1, what is the special bond between twins? They talked about bonds in the paragraphs. It is the feeling of closeness twins have for each other, the feeling they have for each other. Question 2, how did John and William Bloomfield die? They both had heart attacks, so even the way they died, they have the same thing, twins. What was unusual about their deaths? They both died while eating dinner together, okay? 4, why did people think that there was only one Mr. Anderson? Why did they say that? They were identical twins and shared a single life, okay? Because they are twins and they have one life together, okay? They don't have two names. They shared one life, like they are one person. 5, who really robbed the bank? Ronald Anderson really robbed the bank. So they thought someone else robbed it, but the actual thing that the twin who he did the robbing. These questions and answered were answered based on the reading. Inshallah, today in our lesson, if you can open your books, page 10. Can you open your books, page 10? You have different paragraphs and you have these boxes next to it, okay? I want you to read these statements. It's about what? It's about coincidence. Read about coincidence. What do they mean about coincidence? Like, for example, if you are walking in a mall, by chance, by coincidence, you just see your friend. Did you plan the meeting? La. Did you call your friend and tell her I'm in that mall? No, you didn't. So it's a chance. It's suddenly something happened without planning. Okay, this is what the reading is about. Read about coincidence, number the paragraph and sentences in the correct order. Okay, so you have to read it one by one. One afternoon, I was walking around the campus looking for a place to eat lunch when suddenly I heard someone call my name. I turned around. You are Sean, aren't you? Said a familiar voice. So you notice I highlighted some words in red. Campus, suddenly, and familiar. Do you know the meaning of these words? Yes, you do? No? It's okay. Campus, when you say I'm walking around campus, it's all the facilities, all the buildings we have in one campus. Usually we call university campus or college campus or school campus. It's all usually related to these facilities. You have different places, so it's all together, like building 5, the cafeteria, building, research building, for example, the library. All of these together, you call it campus, okay? Suddenly, also I'm sure you already know these information from our previous lessons. I'm just repeating the information. Suddenly, something happened without planning. Something is like a surprise suddenly. And familiar, that's mean when I talk to you and you hear the sound, it sounds familiar. That's mean you already know, you know the voice, but you're not sure who. Familiar, that's mean you already heard that voice before, okay? That's what familiar mean. The three of us went for lunch that afternoon, and Mike and I did a lot of catching up. Since then, I hang out with him and Lee almost every day. So here in this paragraph, I highlighted catching up. Catching up. Do you know when you sometimes we use this phrase when we don't see our friends or family for a long time. So when you meet after a long time, you catch up. You tell him, what did you do the days you didn't see your friend? What did you finish? What did you accomplish? So you catch up, you get the information, you will be updated, okay? You catch up all the new events in your friend's life. The third paragraph, I arrived here in Chicago 2 months ago as an exchange student. Exchange student, what does exchange student mean? It's a program, usually universities do. They select few students and they contact another university and they select few students and they exchange. They switch. So there, like 5 students and here 5 students, they exchange. Each one of them, they study in another university. The program will last maybe a year, 2. It depends on the agreement between the 2 places and the 2 university. What do they decide? Do they decide the exchange program will be 1 month, 3 months, 1 year? Okay? My first week at the college, everything was still a bit confusing. I felt lonely most of the time. Sure, I had met a few students in my classes, but I hadn't made any friends yet. Here we said confused. When you are confused about something, do you know what you're doing or you're not sure? Confused, it has the same meaning as you're not sure, okay? And lonely, when you are without, you don't have any friends around you, any family, you feel lonely and sad because you don't have anyone around you, okay? Now we have these other paragraphs. Mike, what are you doing here in Chicago? It took me a second to realize who it was. To my surprise, okay, to my surprise, it's like an expression used to show that you are surprised from a situation. To my surprise, you introduce the event that made you surprise, okay? It was my cousin, Mike. I hadn't seen him in 5 years because his family had moved to the US. He was with Lee, a student in one of my classes. Well, the last paragraph, well, I live in Chicago and I'm student economics. I'm studying economics here at the college. So economics, it's like a major you study in a university. You can study medicine, you can study English, you can study Arabic, you can study economics, okay? It's a major they study in universities. When Lee told me there was an Irish student in one of his classes, I had no idea it was you. What a small world, what a small world. Like for example, we use these phrases even in Arabic, we say it. صح? We have a similar expressions. When you see someone and suddenly without planning, you say, what a small world. It's a small world. Is it actually a small world? لا, but we use it to show that you can see, you can meet anytime without planning, okay? So look at the phrases. Think about which one you will use first, which statement you think we will use. Can we start, the three of us went to lunch, can we start with this statement? Can we make it one paragraph? لا, we start with what? Excellent. I arrived here in Chicago 2 months ago. So we will start with this phrase. What about the next one? Which phrase you think we should use next? Excellent. One afternoon, I was walking around the campus looking for a place to eat lunch when suddenly I heard someone call my name. I turned around. You're Sean, aren't you? Said a familiar voice. This is the second paragraph. The third one will be, it took me a second to realize who it was. To my surprise, it was my cousin Mike, and I hadn't seen him, etc. Okay, so how can we continue it? Continue, we start with this phrase. Mike, what are you doing here in Chicago? Because he talked to me, he talked to this person, and it was a familiar voice. They respond, Mike, what are you doing here? Then, well, I lived in Chicago. This is number one, I arrived. Number two, afternoon. Then 3, it took me a second. 4, Mike. 5, well, I lived in Chicago. Okay, the last one, the 3 of us went for lunch that afternoon. So this is how we arrange the paragraphs together, okay? Now, we have these questions. It's related to the reading. خلاص احنا we organized everything, صح? I have these questions. I want you to look at the whole paragraph organized in front of you and answer these questions. Where is Sean from? Where do you think he's from? They mentioned the nationality. Skim the reading. Look at it. Try to find the answer quickly, okay? Why is Sean in Chicago? Why? Why is he in Chicago? What is he doing? They said something. Do you remember when we talked about? Yes? Who is Mike? Who is he? We have Sean and Mike. Who is Mike? And why was Sean surprised to see him? So these questions, try to answer it. Compare your answers with your friend. So for question 1, where is Sean from? He's from Ireland. Excellent. Why is Sean in Chicago? He is an exchange student. Do you remember when we talked about exchange student? He is an exchange student. That's why he is in Chicago. Who is Mike? It's Sean's cousin. Why is Sean surprised? He hadn't seen Mike in 5 years. That's why he was surprised when he saw him. Okay? Now let's move on to our writing corner. Okay? Can we move on to our writing corner? Use simple past to talk about completed past event. The first tense we're gonna cover is the past tense. We talked about it a lot, and even we revised all the information in our expansion units. صح؟ طيب, when do we use the simple past? Can you tell me? Look at the example. Suddenly I heard someone call my name. I turned around. Okay, also here it's a past tense. I heard and I turned. Okay, so these verbs are in past tense. When do we use the past tense? When we are talking about what? Something happened in the past. Excellent. Is the action finished or continuing? It is finished. When something happened in the past, let's see this timeline here. Sorry. Let's see this timeline. We will draw it together. We have here the future, and we have here now, and here we have the past. Okay? We draw the timeline when an action happened in the past. It's not continuing, it stopped. خلاص, when the action happened and finished in the past, we use the simple past. Okay? Number 2, we use the past progressive. How do we form the past progressive? Was or were and then verb ing. This is how we form the past progressive. Okay? طيب, when do we use the past progressive? We use it to talk about actions that were in progress when another past event happened. يعني إيش يا مس؟ يعني we have 2 actions, not one. Okay? We have one action, a long action, and a short action. Like for example, when I was walking to school, I fell. Okay? The long action, I was walking. This is the long action. Suddenly something else happened, made me fall. Okay? So I was walking around the campus when suddenly I heard someone call my name. So the long action was walking, then suddenly something else happened. How do we draw the timeline? Let's draw it together. We have here the future, now, and we have the past. We have 2 actions, صح? We said a long action and a short action. So the first action started, and I'm doing the action. I'm walking, or I'm eating. Okay? Then suddenly another action happened to interrupted my event. يعني I was walking, then I fell. The long action and another action, a short one. Okay? This is how we form it. Okay? The past progressive. Inshallah, we will cover it more in our next unit, as you can see. Let's look at these statements. Write it on the board. Try to form the past progressive. We have cooked dinner and phone rang. Where is the long action? Which one you think? When you cook dinner, is the long action, or when your phone is ringing? The long action is the actual cooking. So this is the long action. This is what we are going to use to in the present progressive. Then here we will use the simple past, which is the interrupting action. What about these 2? Sit in a cafe, saw an old friend. Which one is the long action? When you are sitting in a cafe, or when you saw someone familiar? When you're sitting, this is the long action. So this is the action when we use the past progressive, and this is the short action. Try to form the questions. You can say I. When you say I, you say I was. I was what? We have the verb ing. Excellent. This is how we form the past progressive. Write the sentences, compare it with your friends, and let's see the answers together. She or I was cooking. You can say she was, or I was, or he was, anything. Or they were cooking, okay? She was cooking dinner when the phone rang. Okay, the past tense of ring is rang. Okay, the other statement, I was sitting in a cafe when I saw an old friend. This is how we form the past progressive, okay? Now let's move on to number 3. We use the past perfect. Now we have the past perfect. We have had or had and then past participle, verb 3. When do we use it? We use it to talk about an action that happened before another action in the past. Also here in the past perfects, we have 2 actions. We have 2 actions. One happened before the other, okay? So we use the past perfect to talk about action that happened before another action in the past. So both actions happened in the past. We don't have a long and a short like the present, the past progressive. Here we have 2 actions. One happened before the other one. Okay, one happened and finished, and one happened and finished. This is when we use the past progressive. How do we form it? Here we have the future, and we have now, and we have the past. Okay, look at the example. I hadn't seen him in 5 years because his family had moved. Had moved. يعني here had moved. Here action happened in the past, and then we have another action. I hadn't seen him. So we have an action happened and we have another action happened before it. Okay, we have 2 actions happened in the past. One happened before the other one. You will practice the past progressive in unit 3. Inshallah, these we will cover it in our next units in detail, inshallah. And the past perfect in unit 6. And here he wants you to refer to the irregular verbs and past participles on page 82 as a reference to see how we form verb 2 and verb 3, okay? Look at these examples. How can we form the past perfect, okay? Here we have 2 actions. He couldn't open the door because. Why? He's trying to open his door. He couldn't because what happened? Something happened before it. What is it? So this is the action happened first. This is the second. Which one are we going to use the past, the had plus verb 3, the past perfect tense? We will use it with the second one, okay? The action happened before. And train left when I got to the station, okay? Try to form the statements and let's compare the answers. He couldn't open the door. Here, he couldn't open the door because something happened before. He had forgotten. We have had and verb 3, his keys. Okay? What about the second statement? Train left when I got to the station. So you can say the train had left when I got to the station. Okay? So the first action we will use with it the past perfect. Now look at exercise C. Before we have exercise B and exercise C. Write about a strange coincident chance meeting. Here are some examples of ideas. Do you remember the paragraph we arranged? You have to tell a story. Something surprisingly happened to you. A surprise happened to you. Write about a chance you met one of your family when you were walking, one of your friends. Tell us the story like what Sean did when he met his cousin Mike, okay? Here they provided 2 examples. You can use these examples or you can write your own, okay? Let's see the first example. I have a big family and I don't know them all. One day when I was in a cafe, what happened? This is like an introduction you can use. Number 2, I was talking a summer English course. I was taking a summer English course in London. A student sat next to me in class and we started a conversation. The student mentioned, and then this is just an example. You can use your own statements, your own stories, okay? And here in exercise B, he wants you to organize your ideas. There are some boxes in exercise B. He wants you to write the sequence of events. Like you can say, for example, in number 1, I was here. You can write, I was walking in a mall. Okay, this is the first event. What happened next? Next, I saw my friend. So you have to organize the sequence of events so you can write down your own example of a coincidence or a surprise, okay? For your homework, you have to write about a strange coincidence or a chance meeting. This is your homework. This is what you have to do. Also, you have to cover workbook page 94. If we want to recall what we covered in our lesson today, in our lesson, we focused on how to write about a strange coincidence. Which words are we going to use? Catch up, suddenly, to my surprise. These words, you can use it to write a chance meeting or a coincidence. Also, we talked about past tenses and we differentiated between the uses of them. And we formed statements related to these past tenses, okay? Thank you for listening. That's it for today, and inshallah I will see you next class.